And the second thing that everybody is now very focused on is net zero building, reducing your energy consumption and stuff. So these two are critical. When we talk to our clients, whenever we meet them at events or we get a chance to have a coffee with them, these are key points that they talk. That we need to do building with net zero. We need to be very efficient. We need to understand how the building is utilized and stuff. So our future, we are already aligned, I would say that.
Whatever buildings that we need, 90% of them are already built. So naturally, the bigger market opportunity for us is to focus on the retrofitting of older buildings which weren't smart from day one.
Hi, wherever you're joining us, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to Startup Fridays, conversations with accomplished entrepreneurs and VC investors. I'm Hari Arakli, and in this episode, the founders of Clairco and Sensiable talk about their vision as one company, as their energy management tech and solutions complement each other, offering customers like Brigade Group a fuller suite of products and services. Aayush Jha, Udayan Banerjee, Ashish, Singh, and Akshay Davasam talk about how they can help customers monitor one laptop on one desk or an entire multi-storey building. Backed by investors including Anicut Capital, the entrepreneurs are about to announce a new round of investment as well, which will help them invest more in artificial intelligence features and expand their market presence.
Hari, the big news is that Clairco and Sensiable are merging. These are two startups which were focusing on the built environment, focusing on making buildings smarter. Buildings account for around 40% of global emissions. And smart buildings, the entire concept is around sustainability and reduction of carbon emissions. And both of our companies were working towards that. But we realized that if we work together, we'll be able to have a much bigger impact. And that's what so we've been working on this for a couple of months now. And I think now's the right time to talk about it openly and publicly. Ashish, anything do you want to add to that?
No, as Ayush said, it's a great, I would say, story for both of us to come together. We both are in the same field. And I think for us, it was more of a forward integration. We have a technology which does a lot of work in space management. And the next question was, what do you do with that information? And that's where we figured out, the end game could be that with this story of space management, we could go ahead and save energy for our customers. And I think overall, it forms the right strategy for a customer to look at us together. And thinking about that, we both came together, discussed, and we found synergies. We found our energies matching, our passion matching, and I would say our vision matching, and that's why we came together.
Can you talk a bit more about, all of you, about what are some of the areas where you thought Clairco was doing a really good job, and where would Sensible come in and maybe add your technology to it, fill in some gaps, so that together you have a much more interesting sort of value proposition for your customers?
Sure. So I'll quickly introduce Clairco as well. So Clairco started off as indoor air purification for larger commercial buildings. And we were doing that by installing certain air filters in existing air conditioners. So we were already there in the retrofit space. We realized that that's very important, but there's also something that we're missing. How do we make that HVAC more efficient? Because air conditioners consume substantial energy. Can we make it smarter? Air conditioners do not know if there are people there. Air conditioners do not know if people which are there are comfortable or not. Hari, 100% you've been to office spaces which are way too cold for you to be comfortable. These things are not a small problem. These are massive energy wastages. That's precisely what we also wanted to stop and work towards reducing. And that's something that is a stronghold of where Clairco is. And that's when we launched energy efficiency as a service. And we realized a lot of clients are seeing substantial value into it. So we don't sell our sensors, we don't sell our IoT devices at all. We install them, and whatever energy savings we achieve for the end client, we charge roughly half of that to our end clients. So relatively, it's a frictionless sort of a sales engagement overall with our clients.
Understand where people are. That's where Sensible comes into. Our whole tech has been toward understanding where people are, how many people are there. And through this information, till now we were doing space management. We were letting people know, do they have enough space? Is the space being utilized properly? Do they need to go for a larger space, or they can manage more people in the same space? With this information, when we feed it into a Clairco's platform, we can give them a much better idea about the occupancy, and with that information, they can manage the, I would say, energy piece for the building in much efficient way. That's where I think the story fits into, and together we create a value for our customers.
Yeah. The story that usually we used to say is that we treat building as a living object, right? So now if, Sensible is putting the senses like like a human has touch, feel, smell. So building also needs to sense its own condition, status.
Yeah.
So that's when then you can actually optimize. So we come from a background of sensing the building parameters to a good extent, and then the logical next step for us was to see how to control and make it more optimal, and that's where Clairco was standing out to a very good extent. So the synergy was very
Very natural, yeah.
very natural.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, Clairco's own product roadmap was very similar to what Sensible has been building over the last couple of years. So we also thought that let's come together and make it faster. Why to reinvent the same wheel? So some of the IoT technologies that we were building, Sensible already had a few advanced steps on towards that. So we thought let's come together and directly launch together in the market. So
Did you guys have any common customers before you came together?
No, but we have some that are coming in together.
Yeah.
So some of the clients that they've had before are interested in our air conditioning, energy efficiency business. Some clients who were our older, say, air purification clients, are very keen on understanding how are their buildings being used, how many people are in which zone of the building, which floors are not being utilized properly, etc. That's where Sensible comes in. So it's very complementary right now.
and
We
we
have
know
a-
a lot of common people. So because of both being in the same industry, so a lot of common people know both of us. So even the clients are appreciating us coming together.
Our clients are very excited to know that we have come together. In fact, as Ayush said, we are actually getting a lot of inquiries which need both of our products too. And that's, I think, that's a great thing too for us. We are seeing if a client is happy with our collaboration, there's nothing more exciting than that for us.
Who are your typical customers now as a combined entity?
Our clients were always similar. We work with larger companies, you can say Fortune 5000 companies, for their office needs, to help them decarbonize their operations, for them to understand if they're using their offices properly, to ensure that they're using their assets efficiently. From a commercial real estate standpoint, not necessarily real estate developers, but the tenants who are using those spaces are our focus. Other categories that we are also now looking at are, of course, co-working very, very closely. Co-working is something which is, Udayan can go deeper into that. The kind of energy density that those buildings have is way higher than regular corporates, and hence our energy efficiency solutions combined with the occupancy detection that we are using now is a very, very strong value proposition for co-working spaces. And third, the last asset class that we're looking at is also retail or malls. So these are the three asset classes that we're looking at, but focus is in the office spaces.
You mentioned that your workspace and their energy management. I mean, for a more general audience, can you delve into that a bit more and talk about, in practice, what does that mean? What does the Clairco side of the company do, and what does the Sensible side of the company do here?
From the Sensible perspective, we make all the sensors that basically recognize or understand how the space is getting used, where people are, and even your washroom, how clean the washroom is. So all these kind of sensing parameters are basically done using the Sensible product range, and this information gets collated or integrated with the Clairco for optimization. So that's how we have.
So when we say optimization, what Clairco focuses is on the air conditioning optimization. So these large commercial buildings, just to put things in perspective, they're almost 60% of their overall energy consumption is the air conditioners. And Clairco has been helping them save around 25% of that air conditioning energy saving. energy consumption, and but we did not have very granular. We has occupancy understanding, but like he mentioned, on a desk level or on a washroom level, we did not have that information. That information further helps us in improving our
Better
optimization
optimization.
capabilities.
So just to say in short, what Sensible does is typically say in an office space when you buy a 1,000 seater, as a real estate head, you really want to understand are you utilizing it enough or not. With now hybrid kind of working style, is your 1,000 desk occupied most of the time or is it empty? And as per the data, if you see global data, currently the occupancy level of any office is close to around 45 to 50%. That means out of 1,000 desks, you only have 500 desks occupied, 500 are free. Now with Sensible, you are able to visualize this on a digital platform and understand, okay, this is how your space is being utilized. Can you fit in more people, or could you cut down on your space and save money? Now this information goes to Clairco, and Clairco uses this information to save on energy because
Control their conditions.
absolutely one is space, the other part is also energy.
Energy.
Because if you have empty spaces and you are pushing in your air conditioning, you are keeping your lights open, you are already wasting energy. So in short, what we like to say is we want to shift the use of energy on empty spaces to using energy on people where people are.
Right.
That's the logic, and that is where I think common where Sensible and Clairco comes together.
And what? Sorry, go ahead.
And the accuracy of data is very important here, Hari. So, because we use a lot of AI while controlling the air conditioning to optimize the air conditioning usage, it's important to understand where people are there at the moment. People move around. Are they using the office, the open areas, or are they using the meeting rooms more? Is there one person who's using the entire 15-seater meeting room, etc.? So these kind of information is fed to our AI, which then understands it and then controls the HVAC according to that data in real time. Hence, all of this coming together makes a lot of sense for the end client.
And very valid point what Aayush said. Why would you want to count the number of people in a meeting room? Generally, people ask. The point is, see, when you have a 15-seater or a 18-seater, and most of the time, one or two guys are sitting, it's a huge, I would say, loss of real estate. You have built a 18-seater, and most of the time, two people are sitting. These data when goes back to the corporate, next time when they're making their offices, they understand what kind of rooms they need. Why would they build a 20-seater when they can build a 6-seater and let the people use it, and the rest of the space they can use for their people, for the sitting, for any other use. So these kind of data that our sensors throw help the corporates or the architects to plan a better building, a better office of the future is what we say.
So one is the future design. Second is, even if the building has been, let's say, not designed optimally in terms of it is, let's say, over designed for space, like you're saying that 18-seater space, but only 2 or 3 people are occupying. So at a real time, Clairco understands that, okay, if 2 people are there, what should be the setting of the air conditioners versus if 18 people are there, what should be the setting of the air conditioners. So now normally what happens conventionally is that even if 2 people are sitting or 18 are sitting, the AC will run at full zone, full at very low temperature, full capacity. But we can modulate that on a real time basis, which is where the wastages are coming down. So like he was mentioning before, that when we go there and feel too cold, it is because unnecessarily it was running at a full capacity, which was not required. So our system understands whether people are there and whether the people are comfortable or not, because that is a very critical aspect of
So
optimization.
wellness, I mean, a lot of people are talking about well buildings, right? So it not only caters to your energy optimization, but also the comfort of the people who are there. Right? So with your conventional methodologies, it is way too,
So there's a concept called sick building syndrome. So which is basically what talks about that many a times you might have come across people, or maybe you might yourself might have experienced that otherwise your health is fine, but going into a particular building you fall sick or you feel dizziness or a lot of allergies are there. That is the sick building syndrome, that it makes people sick. So to improve the wellness of people, it is important to understand the air quality and the temperature, the thermal comfort, and whether they are comfortable or not. So technologies that we have built together are helping with that as well.
Hari, I'll add one last point
Sure.
on that. So what Udayan and Akshay are saying, sick building syndrome and wellness in the building or the indoor environment that we are providing in the buildings. Globally, there are a lot of compliances around it. Schools in Dubai have to maintain a particular air quality, so do schools in Canada and US. So you have these different compliances around indoor environment. Similarly, in New York, you have a law called New York Local Law 97, this law emphasizes that the building has to be very efficient in energy consumption. If they waste energy, they get very strong, fines. Similar compliances you have in Singapore, that all companies have to come out with the kind of emissions that they are emitting, and your buildings emit substantial amount of emissions. With these kind of compliances coming in play, what we are building together is going to make a lot of sense for the developed world and for countries like India as well together.
Can you talk a bit more about the sensors? What do they actually measure? And what is at the core of your proprietary intellectual property over there?
So that so we have multiple sensors. So first,
So he's the CTO.
Okay. So we have.
So now CTO of Clairco?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So we have multiple range of sensors that we are working on, and the first one I'll speak about is the occupancy sensor, where it primarily tries to identify where people are. Right. So now the uniqueness that we are trying to bring in, it's a completely battery operated device which runs on a coin cell battery, and it can work like 2 to 3 years, and it's not like theoretically calculated. It's practically running for more than 2.5 years already. Right. So now what does make sense there is that your operation time drastically reduces. It is just a plug and play. Just go to any existing facility, just paste the sensors, just walk out of it, and you're done. So that's how simple we have made the system. So next is the way the entire system network is established, and the way the internal health check happens for the network, and the stability and the reliability of the sensors is where we have actually focused a lot on. So here we are trying to make a cost effective, reliable, made in India product. So everything from the circuit, from design, from the firmware written, from the production, everything happens within India.
Next, to put things in perspective, this is like almost 1/3 the price of the same technology, or maybe a little bit inferior technology globally. So which means that we are extremely cost competitive here. Yeah.
Second comes the air quality. So in air quality, we are working towards AI-enabled devices. So the very uniqueness of our product is that you can train it to differentiate between cappuccino and filter coffee, right? So you can literally train it to detect different smells. So so that gives you a big edge compared to the other products that are available in market. So now where are we using these? We are, of course, first of all, using it in the workspace to understand the comfort level of the people, whether the temperature is right, whether they are feeling comfortable, whether the smell is good. So in those workspace areas, and also in the washrooms. So washroom is also a very critical place where you need to actually monitor quite many stuff. So we have those. So one is your occupancy, one we have air quality sensors, and then when it comes to occupancy, we have again two different things. So one is a granular level to identify in every seat if somebody is sitting or not. Second, we are working towards a thermal imager-based modules, which goes on top and tries to identify people based on thermal images. So that is GDPR compliant. So we are not actually we are not collecting any personal information of people, but we are truly measuring only the occupancy and trying to optimize the entire building in a whole.
And this thermal sensor itself is also trained to identify whether it is a person or a laptop or a printer or a coffee mug. So that also gives a lot of accuracy. It is just to improve the accuracy because it will detect the heat emitting from any object. So it has been trained to identify people are there or just furniture is there.
So we have customers asking us, okay, sometimes just tell us how many people. And we have some customers who ask us, no, if somebody has a laptop on the table, you still tell us that there is somebody, because laptop means somebody has been occupying the space. So in that case, we have smart algorithms which can detect only people, which can detect people as well as the laptop.
So also one use case is, let's say somebody has left the laptop and left the room. In that also we understand, okay, they have left the laptop, but that means they will come back after some time. So we do not switch off the AC. We'll just reduce the temperature, increase the temperature by maybe 1.5 degrees. So those kind of very granular intelligence helps in saving these energy consumption.
Do these sensors have a range in which they're accurate and reliable?
Yes.
Right,
Yes, of course. So any product would have its range in which it basically performs. So yeah, I mean, based on the different kind of sensors that we have different ranges. For example, thermal sensor can cover up to 10 desks, and your occupancy sensor can do a single desk. And then you have air quality. I think we are putting in 5,000 square feet.
So when we say 10 desks, it's around 1,000 square
Yeah,
feet.
so
1,000
the,
square
the,
feet, yeah.
the occupancy sensor ceiling based covers around 800 to 1,000 square
1,000
feet.
square feet.
And a thermal sensor, as per standards, international standards, once air quality sensor can cover up to 5 to
5,000
7,000 square feet. So that's
They give you information on what's happening. Your solution takes the decision on what to do with the energy management. So can you now talk about how you do that? I mean, we just learned how the sensors work. Can you talk about actually how does the Clairco solution, sort of affect the change in shutting off an AC or whatever you need to
Changing
do?
the temperature.
Sure. So, Hari, let's look at certain scenarios. Let's look at the problems first, and then we'll come to what we are doing. By the way, Sensiable is not sending data anywhere else. We now have the same cloud. We have the same
Everything is
database.
integrated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so integration
everything
has
is
happened.
integrated already. So, two problem statements. Number one, irrespective of the occupancy or how many people are there in a building or in a floor, air conditioners are usually running in a centrally air conditioned environment. Okay, that's the problem. Second, even if people are uncomfortable by the amount of cold air coming out of that air conditioner, the air conditioner continues to blow that super cold air in our faces, right? These are the two problems that we are looking at. Okay. Now let's look at the data which is available with the sensors that we've been discussing. It tells us, number one, how many people are there in that space, right? So that helps us understand that what could be the prospective heat load at the moment. How do we derive the heat load of a building? The number of people helps us understand the amount of heat coming out of their bodies, number one. Number two is the amount of infrared or the amount of heat coming out from the sun or the ambient conditions. Outdoor weather conditions. So if it's rainy, if it's sunny, if it's cloudy, etc. So these different conditions also add to the amount of heat in your buildings. When we bring these two together, we understand what is the current heat load in the building. And then we look at what's the air conditioning doing. Is the air conditioning, the amount of cool air it's providing, is it more or less or equal to what our analysis is talking about?
What it is required.
What amount of further cooling is required? And that's what our system continuously controls the air conditioner, reduces or increases the temperature, or stops the functioning of the air conditioner in real time using the controllers that we've built. So that's how the entire things come together.
This whole thing is proprietary. So the method of the heat load calculation algorithm is something which is proprietary to us. We are taking into account almost 80 parameters to arrive at and what do we arrive at? We arrive at the temperature at which it should run. So there are different 80 parameters. When I say it's occupancy, indoor temperature, humidity, outdoor weather patterns, time of the day, which direction the sun ray is coming from, and based on the location of the sensor. If the sensor is located within, let's say, southwest of the building versus northwest of the building, that means that at that point of time it is receiving sun ray or not. So those kind of very, very granular information goes into the algorithm. Plus, comfort of people is also part of algorithm. So how we arrive, so nobody else takes into account the comfort of the people. So how we arrive, there are some international standards. So there's a basically quantified scale based on which we arrive at a particular number. It's called PMV. I'm getting a little bit technical. So we maintain that PMV within that comfortable range. And that also goes into the system so that people do not feel too cold, but they also do not feel too warm. Both the scenarios are uncomfortable.
How would determine that? Hari is very interesting. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, briefly, what does PMV stand for?
Okay, so it's predictive mean vote. So basically, it's a scale in the range of -3 to +3. So what happens? It takes into account. So there's a body called ASHRAE. That's a global body, American Society for Heating Refrigeration Engineers. So it's a well-established and well-accepted guideline body. So ASHRAE has a very clear formula of understanding the PMV And if the PMV value is between minus 0.5 to plus 0.5, that means at least 80% of the people in that zone are comfortable. And that goes into our feedback algorithm, which keeps the PMV within that minus 0.2 plus 5 plus 0.5. So that is feeded in the algorithm so that we know, okay, people are not too uncomfortable.
So Hari, if you're feeling very hot, your body will dissipate more amount of heat from your face and your hands. Our senses are able to get that. If you're feeling cold, it will dissipate less amount of heat. So that's how we distinguish if someone's comfortable in this temperature or not.
So the PMV also understands based on what people are wearing. Let's say if somebody is wearing a t-shirt versus a blazer or a jacket or whatever, how the heat emitted by them will be different, right? Again, another scenario is that if somebody has just come from outside, let's say it is hot weather, they have come inside, obviously they will be emitting more heat and they'll be removing their jacket or whatever, right? So those things also, it's all a heat signature. Ultimately, the thermal sensor captures the heat signatures which is coming up. So that goes into account.
Today, is it possible? And do you have controllers where you can independently control specific floors or even rooms and cabins within a building? Or is that something that you have sort of on your to-do list?
We've already built it. We can manage floors, couple of zones. We can
cabin
differentiate.
Yeah.
And many of the buildings are designed partially in that way that individual cabins or conference rooms have their own
Control.
like set point. Just like in your hotel rooms, that set point is there. They can set it, but that set point goes as a feedback in our algorithm. We don't necessarily follow that because somebody suddenly can put a 18-degree requirement which is not required. Maybe they require it. So for that particular zone, only 18 will be mentioned. What normally happens is, let's say somebody is there who has set up as 18-degree and he's a senior person. Then everybody else will have to bear with that temperature. They cannot do anything about it. But our technology automatically makes it comfortable for everybody else.
Okay. I think it might be interesting to talk about. If there's a good way to illustrate going from one sensor in one room to the scale of a smart city, and can you talk about the role of Clairco plus Sensiable in that? How do you envision that?
Sure. So if you look at India overall, okay, and if you only look at tech parks and larger centrally air-conditioned buildings, you have around 1 billion square feet of that. Okay, 1 billion square feet of that in India right now. I'm only talking about tech parks. I'm not talking about relatively smaller buildings that we see around here in HSR layout in Bangalore, right? You have these buildings in MG Road, etc., which are relatively smaller. We're not talking about that. I'm only referring to your larger SEZ tech parks.
So that's called grade A real estate.
They're called as grade
A commercial.
Yes. So just to give you an idea.
Why are they called grade A commercials?
They are the most premium ones.
Achha.
So everything about them is the best quality tiles,
Yes.
best quality lighting, food, water, air.
The HVAC, the level of automation that they have in the building, etc., are the best. So if I talk about the creme de la creme also, and then we can trickle down into the larger parts, it's a very, very large market. To be frank, we will have to scale exceptionally fast to be able to reach a scale of a smart city or a larger space or a larger city like even Bangalore for that perspective. Bangalore has roughly around 300 million square feet of these buildings, and that's the focus we're going for.
Can you give us a sense of what is your thinking, plan, vision for maybe in your industry jargon product roadmap? What you see as the opportunity for this combination, both in terms of the tech that you have and therefore what kind of business that will bring you?
So let me take you through how the product has matured till now and then what we see before. So Clairco started with air purification, which has just one parameter monitoring and filters. And Sensiable started with one desk-based occupancy
sensor.
Now Clairco eventually got into within air purification. We built different kind of filters which are patented. Then within air energy efficiency, we built controllers and these thermal sensors and the AI and everything. Sensiable also parallelly started building the thermal sensors and the AI. Now both we have come together, and now that we can control the air conditioner and the space. The only last piece of the puzzle I would say in the building is the critical rooms, which are the server rooms and the UPS and battery rooms. So we are just starting to monitor them. We just probably launching one project very soon where we'll be monitoring them. And the next step will be to optimize the critical rooms also, because after HVAC, the second largest energy consuming line item in a building is your server and the UPS battery rooms. So that is a natural progression for a product. And once that happens, that means for a particular client, just think about the client. He just needs to work with Clairco and his entire building is done. So it doesn't need to think about
the future is all about, you're talking about smart city, we call it smart building, pretty similar. All the smart cities have smart building. See, the buildings of the future are not expected, are definitely going to be smart.
Yeah.
And when we talk about smart, there are two very important things that comes. First is data, because when you say smart building, you need to have all the data of what kind of the amount of energy that you're using, data of people, how many people are coming, where are they moving, all this information. So you have to digitize the space and bring it onto a dashboard. And the second thing that everybody is now very focused on is net zero buildings or reducing your energy consumption and stuff. So these two are critical. When we talk to our clients, whenever we meet them at events or we get a chance to have a coffee with them, these are the key points that they talk, that we need to move to a building with net zero, we need to be very efficient, we need to understand how the building is utilized and stuff. So our future, we are already aligned, I would say that. The products that we have today, and day by day it is becoming stronger and better, I would say, with now AI coming into use. We are using generative AI as well now. That's the new catchphrase everybody's talking about. We are working on something which is
Akshay
which is right now under the wraps. We have not yet disclosed to too many people, but we're coming up with something which is brilliant, I would say, which would make life easier for people. So the kind of platform that we're building, you would get clear insights. You would get what exactly needs to be done. And of course, with Clairco, half the things are already done. You don't need to do anything. So I think we are very aligned to, I would say, the requirements of the future.
So coming to your question related to the roadmap, it was a very sequential step for us, because as you rightly mentioned, we are collecting the data, and most of our customers were asking, like, you have collected the data, what is the action on top of it? And Clairco had already created the action part of it, and some portion of the sensing also was done. So it became a very logical step for us to associate. So now what's going to happen is time to market drastically cuts down. Right. So with both our partnership, we can immediately go to the market where we have a complete solution from sensing till controls. So that makes a very valuable proposition for all the customers, which they can start using it. So and then, as he mentioned, so we are moving towards the AI. So how generative AI can be used for automating a lot of mundane activities inside a building, so which will affect your energy consumption as well as comfort to a large extent. How do we do that? That is where we are heading towards.
I wanted to take a quick segue from what Ashish touched upon around of net zero buildings. If you look at the larger companies globally, which have substantial amount of office spaces and back offices in India, they have a net zero goal, right? So they have to achieve these. And let's look at, say 15 years from now, right? Say by 2040, whatever buildings that we need, 90% of them are already built. So naturally, the bigger market opportunity for us is to focus on the retrofitting of older buildings, which weren't smart from day one.
Right.
And with our technologies coming in together, we can definitely make them way smarter, way more efficient, and help them reduce the carbon emissions. Hence, what we are building is going to be of very strong relevance to older buildings and, of course, to new buildings as well going forward.
Is there a significant hardware component of your business model? I mean, do you assemble them, do them yourself, or there are partners who do that for you?
Yeah, so we are designing and manufacturing all the hardware in-house.
In green buildings, in greenfield buildings where you are predominantly reaching out to the projects team, you end up selling the hardware as a capex with a certain AMC attached to it. But when you're looking at a retrofit system or a brownfield building, usually clients are more inclined towards going for an OPEX model, where we charge them half of what we help them save. So in this particular model, the assets, the IoT sensors that we made, forever belong to us. We do not transfer the ownership of that asset. We of course get them financed from a NBFC or a financial institution, and we basically charge only for half of what we help our clients save. So the client is not necessarily paying huge capex while buying this. Another benefit that our client is getting is that they almost have zero risk in this model. The entire burden of proof is almost forever with Clairco to deliver on savings. So this is something that our clients are really
So it's a
appreciating.
70-30 split. 70% is on the OPEX model because we predominantly focus on the retrofit because the reasons Aayush mentioned, and remaining 30% is a one-time sales where clients, if they have a budget, they will just procure it. So why OPEX model? Because most of them, when we speak to them, they have already freeze their budget for that year. And going to the CFO again for new budget approval is a huge hassle. So that's why we suggest them just go for OPEX. We are actually putting money in their pocket, if you think about it, because we are passing half of the savings to them, which means that their bottom line improves. So
without them having to do anything.
they just have to give us approval. Okay, go ahead.
The ROI is literally zero. They don't have, they're not investing, so there is no waiting period for the money to come back. So
Immediate ROI, we call it.
So you are taking on the risk of making sure that it actually works, delivers on your promise. So in that context,
We are taking on the accountability.
fair enough.
Yeah.
So in that context, how are you guys doing as a business today? I mean, can you give us a sense of how you're growing? Are you already at break even or even better than that?
Yeah.
And maybe some outlook in terms of the coming quarters?
Sure. Together, we did a little under 6 CR last year. We broke even. This year, we aim to double those numbers with significant gross margins.
You're going to go from 6 crores in revenue to 12 crores this year, or that's the ambition?
It looks like it should happen.
Yeah, we've
at least 10
recently
CR.
closed a few large orders, so we are fairly confident. We've signed some pan-India large contracts with a couple of co-working companies, a couple of larger, companies that we usually know about. We have an NDA. We can't call
so
out
no
their
names that you can mention?
Yeah.
Can you talk about the current company, current clients, not the
co-working
upcoming?
companies?
Sure.
Yeah.
But so in the OPEX model, we have a 5-year contract with a 3-year lock-in, which is why we are very sure that this revenue is coming.
Wow.
As long as we perform, which we are sure that
Right.
We will perform.
So how are we sure is also important. So before claiming and signing the contract, we do a very detailed study of the building. We understand whether we can do anything in this or not, and then only we go ahead and tell them, okay, we can save this much. We do a POC for a month, establish a saving, and that becomes a baseline for the contract signing. So it's like a 6-month process before we sign a contract. But once it is signed, then we are confident that unless something drastically happens, like a black swan event, we should be able to do it.
Any names that you can mention of customers?
So we've been working with Brigade for a fairly long time. Brigade Real Estate Company. They've been a constant supporter for us. Almost always, the first building in air purification was a Brigade building. The first building in energy efficiency has been a Brigade building. So big shout out, big thank you to them. Couple of other clients are some of the co-working companies that we're working with, namely your regular larger names, SmartWorks, Stable Space,
WeWork.
Office, WeWork. We're all moving towards working with them.
And on the, I think, Sensiable side also, some other
we
very
have worked with Bosch, and we have worked and we are again working with Novo Nordisk, which is an European pharma company. Barclays. So we have a lot of lined up again in this area. Together, we are working with a lot of other clients to create value. So, yes, we're in.
Fair enough. So going forward, I mean, just to stay on the thread of the product roadmap a little bit longer, you continue to see this as a hardware software play. And you mentioned earlier all these standards in the US, Canada, Singapore. I'm just wondering if it's on your mind that, especially on the software side, you want to look at overseas markets?
Absolutely, Hari. There is no two questions about it. Our products, now we are already going for international certifications. Some of the products already have global certifications.
we already have one client in UAE, by the way.
Yes, we already have one paying client in Dubai.
client.
actually. And we're definitely going global.
You're able to source the sensors locally over there? You ship them? Or how
We
do you
ship it from here.
We ship.
Oh, okay.
It's an export.
We are
Awesome.
very soon we are going to sign agreements with partners in Southeast Asia, in Middle East as well. So we'll have a partner whom we'll train from here, who would understand all the hardware and stuff. And that's the plan.
Yes.
In the coming 1 year, we want to expand in these two regions. They are big markets and we want to capitalize.
Also, one very interesting thing that we are building, again, part of product roadmap is that, so there are two categories of building. One are like we are making them smart, and then there are some large corporates like your Infosys and Cognizant and Microsoft, Google, etc., who have invested a lot already in the automation of their buildings, but they are not utilizing the data to a very much more efficient way. So we can integrate with their data that they're already generating and just sell, like on a SaaS basis, sell our AI engine to optimize that. So that is something that is going to be a pure play SaaS, and we are working towards it. Already it is one POC is going on with one of the companies. And once that happens, that becomes extremely scalable. We don't have to ship hardware anywhere. We just need to integrate with their platforms and just start.
But buildings like these, Hari, would be single-digit percentage.
Yeah,
right. The majority of the buildings do not generate data.
Right.
Unless until you don't understand what's happening in the building, you have zero data. There's no prediction. There's no control that will be smart enough to actually bring in the savings that are needed. Hence, there will always be a strong hardware component. But then, of course, we are very strongly moving towards another product which is going to be pure play SaaS as well.
So it's a two-pronged approach.
Yes,
One,
going to be a
make the
combination
existing buildings that are not smart, and then optimize them, and which are already smart, optimize them with the algorithm. So,
And to your point, are there any credible estimates? Like how many sensors are there today in commercial buildings in Bangalore, and how many more would we need?
That'll be very tough to comment on. Yeah, very tough to comment.
how many sensors is a very broad question. It depends on what kind of sensor it is.
Yeah, so in your category, let's say,
our category.
narrow it down to thermal sensors. How many might there
thermal
be?
Thermal
sensors would be
sensors almost zero.
Almost,
Yeah,
We are
the
the
ratio is very less. I mean,
the
hardly
only
2 to 3% buildings would have any kind of
Sensors.
these kind of
thermal
sensors.
sensors are not. So thermal sensor itself is our, like, one of the IPs is the thermal sensing based occupancy reduction. The sensors that we use are not our sensors, obviously, but the entire PCB is ours. So people have not figured out how to use those sensors for a building application. There are different applications, but for buildings we have figured it out.
And that's the other part of the equation, right? The local ecosystem is not yet there, where you have people who make the sensors in India.
very few.
Very, very few.
like handful of people.
Yeah.
Sensor OEMs are there, but unfortunately they are not very reliable till now.
Correct.
Local
Reliability is a big concern.
It is a big
So there are
concern.
cheap sensors you can get, but that's not very accurate. It's not reliable.
So where do you get your sensors?
No, see the sensing module, we get it from a few very big names.
Sweden and Belgium, these countries.
Japan.
But
companies are
the
there.
complete circuit around it and the complete programming
building
is
it.
done in
all
house.
of
Right.
Because sensing,
Firmware and PCBs are
yeah,
also.
because sensing element, there are no fabs in India to manufacture those. So
Right.
basically, they get manufactured there. We get the imported modules, and then the remaining things we do around it.
So that is because that's from. That's the reason. The reason for that is because we don't have the semiconductor ecosystem.
Semiconductor
We don't
fabs are
have
not
that.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I see. Okay. Fair enough. Now, who are your current investors? How are you doing for funding?
We've raised a little under 10 CR till now. We're almost there where we've closed our next round of roughly $2.5 million, but I can't openly talk about it yet. We're yet to sign the SHA. Our investors till now very strongly who've supported us are Anicut Capital, one syndicate from AngelList, that's Adept Ventures, who've been with us. Our partners at Grip, they've helped us with equity, they've helped us with debt. Very, very strong partners. Big shout out for those guys. And parallelly, we've also raised some other debt from NBFCs which have helped us keep the business alive. Remember, we invest in the hardware on day one and the client pays us over time. So we take some amount of debt parallelly as well. So that's also been very, very helpful.
And on the equity side, Let's Venture also has been a very good.
Oh yes, of
partner.
course. I'm so sorry, I forgot. Yeah, I should have mentioned Max AR.
Max AR,
They've led the syndicate and big
Okay.
help from them.
Overall, how many people in the company now? The combined
24
company?
now. 24.
24.
24, I think 28, you also have 4-5 people.
Yeah.
Yes. 28.
28.
Yeah, so I mean, a related aspect, can you all talk about at the ecosystem level? I mean, you guys are like a combination of climate tech / deep tech kind of company, or at least I see that you might evolve in that direction. What help might make you grow faster in terms of regulation or other kind of institutional support from government / VC ecosystem, etc.?
Sure. From a government standpoint, we can have very, very strong tailwinds, and this will help, the entire market. The amount of carbon emission that the country needs to reduce, or globally, the asset classes, the commercial real estate needs to reduce. You need many more organizations like us. A single Clairco can't solve for this massive market size that we're talking about. So you need compliances to be such, like we were talking about air quality, compliances on reduction of your carbon emissions. All buildings should be audited. They are being audited for hygiene right now for the restaurants. Why don't we have audits on energy consumption? There are buildings which are bleeding energy. Why are we not, having fines or some other tax liabilities for buildings like those, right? This is the call. This is the need of the hour. And I believe, governments can really do a lot about it. If you look at VCs shy away generally from hardware. But we need to understand, we're talking about an asset class where there is no data available. What can AI do if there is no data?
Exactly.
Right? So we have to have hardware. So we need VCs, we need family offices which have a little more patient capital who can walk with us for a little longer than a decade to be able to see the full, scale of what Clairco or other organizations like us can become. So
I think on the government side, there are organizations like this Bureau of Energy Efficiency who do conduct some audits, but that's not mandated. So from a Clairco standpoint, what we would expect that if there's an organization for specifically an auditor, they're not just energy auditors, but they have a very strong division of energy auditors. If that can become a compliance, then our business will be very easy. Our life will be very easier, because if a building has an energy audit report which says that you are not efficient, then we don't have to tell them, and because we have energy auditors in our team who has to go there and audit, come up with that report, and then convince them that this is not the right way to run this building. And that whole process itself is a 2-3 month process. So if that comes from the government, our sales cycles will be much faster.
And just to wrap up by bringing it back to Clairco Essential, over the next 12 odd months, what might be your top priorities?
Scaling. I think we are talking to a lot of contracts are getting closed right now. And while we have seen our success in energy efficiency on around 15-20 projects over the last 12 months, at a smaller scale, when I say smaller scale, like few floors and couple of floors, now we are signing pan-India contracts for full buildings.
Yeah.
So I think the major focus will be to sustain or achieve the same level of or better level of savings at a larger scale with these companies, because that will be extremely interesting. And once that happens, there will be a word of mouth about Clairco, and I think that will become a very good product market fit story for us, that eventually we have built something which is really, really valuable.
With a lot of confidence, we can say that we've hit product market fit. Now is the time to scale. So our asses are on fire. We have to run as fast as we can without screwing up. That involves a lot of things like raising funding, ensuring that we have certifications on our product, the hardware is being made properly, we're able to raise correct debt, we're able to acquire clients with the right clauses, our products are working properly, and we're able to scale without the entire cloud infrastructure getting affected.
Now both of us coming together, I think as Aayush has said in the beginning, that now our backend is common. We're working on to make sure that everything works seamlessly, and we achieve the reliability that we have been achieving all these days, or probably make it much better.
Surpass.
And scaling. I think that's the biggest thing, because we have done it. We have shown in small pockets, we have shown good amount of saving. Now the point is, when you get a whole building, how do you show the same or better saving? So I think that's the challenge that we are right now. All of us are fighting. We are happy to fight it out. That's a good problem. Right. That's what we are looking for.